Hi, I'm Dr. Nadine Wong. Would you like to know the expression of a man? Or join me for a now talk show? The now talk show is an intimate conversation with a man who highlights the pivotal identity express that has brought him from trials into triumph with a man. The now talk show is sponsored by the Alabaster Rose. Please stay tuned. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're watching the Now Talk Show. Thank you for joining us on another broadcast of the Now Talk Show. I am your host, Dr. Nadine Wong. Today we have another distinguished gentleman by the name of Mr. Dwayne Morgan. We are truly excited for his time that he has graced us with to come on the Now Talk Show to express his trials, how he has overcome into his triumph, and where he is in the now. The Now Talk Show is sponsored by the Alabaster Wellness Clinic. Without further ado, please allow me, at least join me, I should say, in welcoming Mr. Dwayne Morgan to the Now Talk Show. Mr. Morgan, please come forward.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing well. I am so honored that you accepted our invitation on the Now Talk Show.
I'm very happy to be here.
Well, I can see that, and I like the movement that is going forward, that is written on your T-shirt right away. I know this is going to be a great experience.
Absolutely. Well,
All right, well, let's go right into it. So, Dwayne, your bio is full of meat and potatoes or fish and chips. And there's so much areas. I'm not even sure if we're going to get through this 45 minutes of covering everything. But without further ado, please share with the audience who is Dwayne Morgan? What was growing up like for you?
all right. So I am a spoken word artist. And, growing up, I grew up in Scarborough. My parents are immigrants from Jamaica. So I kind of grew up with, being Canadian, but with one foot still in the Caribbean with, old world
Mhm.
teachings and philosophies and that sort of thing. Um, and to this day I'm an introvert, so it was very weird when I found performing as my vehicle, because I would never have chosen to do something with my life that required me to be in front of people, to speak to people, to be the center of attention. I enjoy pulling strings and making things happen behind the scenes, uh,
Mhm.
but it was just really never a desire of mine to be in the forefront. But sometimes in life, we're not necessarily in charge of what we are called to do,
That's
and
right.
responsibility to answer to the call that comes into our life. So,
Mhm.
answering that call when I was 18 years old, I've managed to build a life for myself around my work, around my creativity. People ask me all the time, how is it that you've lived, off of poetry? And it's been 27 years now where poetry has been my job.
Mhm.
And I'm just very grateful that I've been blessed with the creativity to figure out how
Mhm.
to navigate my way around that, and how to live life on my terms as opposed to living the life that is imposed upon you.
Wow, that's a powerful word right there. And being an introvert, did you have many friends who understood your form of expression, or what was connecting with other persons your age group? What was that like?
Well, I mean, as an introvert, you get known as the listener in the group. So,
Ah,
I had no issue with friends, because when people needed to talk, I was always there to listen. So I knew that my power was going to be in listening. So,
mm,
it wasn't hard to be included. It wasn't hard to be friends, because everyone knew, yeah, I wasn't going to be the most talkative person, but
mhm,
it was really about, using my power, which was to listen. And through that listening, that has informed even a lot of the work that I do, because
mhm,
so much of it is inspired by the things that I see and hear, and the things that I perceive and pick up. The ability to learn from what's not being said, because a lot of times we're so focused on what is being said that we don't read between the lines and really see what's not being said, because it's so easy to tiptoe around, the meaning of things. But there's so much value in what isn't being said. So, growing up quiet, I learned how to harness the power of listening.
Mm. And is that when the word starts to be transformed on paper?
Yes and no. I mean, I had no desire to write, as a young person growing up. I didn't have a journal. I didn't write. I wasn't into creative writing. And, when I was in high school, talent shows were the big thing at the time for young people. There's talent shows popping up in the West End, Scarborough, whatever. And I had friends who were rappers, dancers, singers, and they were in all of the talent shows. And I was really jealous of my friends because, they were in the spotlight and I was just one of the kids in the audience. And I had to figure out, if you have no talent, how can you get on the stage? And I said, well, with no talent, the only thing you could do is write a poem. So I wrote a poem and that poem changed my life. But the only reason I wrote the poem was just to get on stage with the rest of my friends. And and sometimes, you just do these things and your life totally changes. So there's really no, I've been writing since I was small. I just wrote because I wanted to be in the spotlight with my friends.
So you're in the spotlight. What was the first thing that came to your mind?
Well, I mean, I was terrified, just having all of these people, looking at me. But then, when you start to share and people are responding and people are like really getting into it, then you're like, oh, okay, you know what? There's some power in this. There's, I'm connecting with people. People like this. And then I liked the feeling of being able to connect to people in that kind of way. So then you wanted to do more. And because all of these talent shows are always happening, you couldn't go to the talent show and just keep doing the same poem.
Same thing. Right.
So, it forced you to write other things, look at different perspectives, figure out, what is going to resonate with this audience of young people at the time.
Wow. Let's get right into it. What is spoken word? What is it about?
Well, I mean, spoken word is just another form of storytelling. It's about whatever you want it to be about. It can be about whoever's writing it, whoever's sharing it, is whatever story you want to tell. A lot of times, I'll say it could be like hip hop without the music, but it's just, it's born out of that hip hop generation. It's just really a matter of finding a story and finding the most creative way to share that story.
I'll share this. I went to Winston Churchill Collegiate in Scarborough, and we had a presentation about, how to express yourself. So I chose dub poetry, and at the time it was Mutabarukas. And no one had ever heard of anything of the sort. Would you compare the dub poetry with spoken words, or is one and the same, but it's just like hip hop versus reggae?
I would say it's the same, but it's hip hop versus the reggae.
Okay.
And I could say, Mutabaruka is one of the first poets I ever saw.
Yeah.
My parents would have these VHS tapes of Flash.
You're showing your age, Mr. Morgan.
He would be on there performing barefoot. And I mean, it was amazing because now I've opened up for him twice. I've gone to Jamaica and I performed for him in Jamaica. I've been on his radio show and stuff like that. So it's amazing when you see this person on TV, and then now it's like, I know this person in real life. So I mean, it's definitely an interesting thing.
Wow. So I understand that you are the father of the whole pioneering, making the liaison with bringing forth Canada's talent and spoken word and making the connection with America. And as you said, also you traveled to Jamaica as well. What was that interconnection like?
Well, I always wanted to be creative in my approach to my career. And I was always very curious. So, I would sign up for all these different email things that I saw pop up, and I didn't even know how I got on all these different lists. But I remember getting an email about a poetry slam that was happening in Philadelphia. And at the time, I had no idea what a poetry slam was. Never heard of this thing before. But I was just like, well, Philadelphia is not that far. Let me go find out. So
Mhm.
got a bunch of friends and we borrowed my mom's van and we just drove to Philadelphia just so I could find out what this thing was. And through doing that, I met all of these amazing artists that I thought people in Toronto would love, but there's no one in Toronto would ever know that these people existed.
Right.
When I came back, I had to create an event that I could invite those people to. And
Mhm.
that's how I created my When Brothers Speak show, my When Sisters Speak show, simply out of going to Philadelphia and then trying to figure out how do I get these people to Toronto.
Mhm. What was the response like? Now, America versus Canada. What was that response like?
Well, I mean, over 400 people came to the very first
Wow.
show that I put on when I brought the Americans over, and
Mhm.
it's been a good learning experience. It's been now 21 years that I've been putting on those events, and I
Mhm.
think for the people in Toronto, they love to hear the American perspective. They love to hear because it just sounds different. The accent is different, and
Yes,
that
yes,
thing. And
yes.
they're just so used to hearing, the local people. But
Mhm.
for the Americans, it's also good when they come over here for them to get a different understanding of blackness, because
Yes.
in America, to be black has pretty much one connotation. You're just
Yes.
black, you're just American. And
Right.
they would always come here and marvel at
Mhm.
how diverse the black
Yes,
community was in
yes,
Toronto,
yes.
because not everybody just says I'm black. Somebody says I'm Jamaican. This one's Trini. This one's Nigerian. This one's Ghanaian.
Mhm.
So you have
Mhm.
all of this diversity of blackness. It's not just I'm black. So I
Mhm.
think for the Americans, it also helped to open their eyes up to the
Mm.
possibilities of blackness, and that black American isn't the only form of black that exists.
Wow, that is a powerful analogy. Do you see that? Okay, so you've been doing this for a while now. Do you see the connection being most welcoming now, or is it still an uphill battle to kind of convert the audience?
I don't think there's that hard to convert the audience, especially because I've been doing it for such a long time now. And,
Mhm.
I've made it a point that I only do the show once a year. So people look forward to the show. It's like an annual tradition. There's people who have, their annual girls' night at When Brothers Speak and that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
So it's so entrenched now that it's really not as hard to get people out. Uh,
Mhm.
the flip side to that is now we live in this world now of social media and stuff, that
Mhm.
it's harder to get people out of the house, it's harder to get people off the phone, it's harder to get people
Yes.
in a live environment to say, oh, I could just watch some poems on YouTube, what I mean? Instead of just paying to go and be in the presence of other people and hearing the things live. So the challenge has shifted. So it's not hard to get the people out. It's just hard to convince the people of why they should be coming out, as opposed to why they should just stay home and watch stuff on YouTube and stuff like that.
Well, that's powerful. You mentioned you created a platform for men, but what was so amazing, you also said you created a platform for women as well.
Mhm.
Why? Why would you create, or why did you see the need to offer the microphone for a woman to speak?
Well, at first, it wasn't even my intention to do that. I figured, when I did When Brothers Speak, I thought people would see the show and say, yeah, you know what, we need to create a women's version. And I left space for that to happen, and
Mhm.
nobody did it. And because nobody did it, I said, all right, then I'm going to do it. So then I
Uh-huh.
created, When Sisters Speak. This year was supposed to be the 20th anniversary, and because of COVID, it got canceled the night before the show.
Oh, wow.
The
Hmm.
artists had already flown in; everybody was in the hotel, ready to go, and the city canceled it the night before. But I think, as a man, it is very important to create space, to use the power that I have to level the playing field, to uplift and amplify the voices of Black women, to let women know that their stories matter,
Hmm.
challenge men on what we think women have to speak about. A lot of men, they say, oh, I don't want to come to When Sisters Speak. They're just going to be hating on men. And you have to remind men that women's lives don't just revolve around men. Women experience things that have nothing to do with men. So this idea that they're just going to be talking about men all night is so egotistical and wrong, because women have complicated lives just like we do that don't revolve around us. So creating a space where, I mean, I don't even perform a poem that night. It's the only people who perform are women that night on that stage. And I think it's probably one of the shows that I'm most proud of, because I don't have to do it, but I do it because I want to do it. And I think it's important to do it. And I hope other men see me doing it and ask, what can I do to amplify women and to, create space for other people. And so I always hope that that is one of the things that people see me doing it and feel inspired and ask themselves, what can they do?
I think the inspiration is like a wildfire, because I hear so many great reports, so many great lessons and words that came back as life lessons in terms of healing. And you've already, the beacon is there. The beacon is there. So congratulations. And on behalf of the ladies, you've heard it before, but I'll say it again. Thank you. It's so important. Now, you are, listen, when I looked at your, not just your bio, I've seen you, I saw you. I saw you perform for our former America President Barack Obama. And the list goes on and on and on and on. Now, that little child who first went up to perform and was quite nervous, did you have that same nervous experience when you were performing at the former President Obama's event, and all the other dignitaries that you were asked to perform? Did that little boy come out again just being nervous, or it's a different level? Bring that to me.
I mean, typically all the time. I still get nervous. I still don't like being center stage. I still don't like being the center of attention. With the Obama performance, we were just so ready for it that I was actually probably less nervous than I usually am. We rehearsed, we had done, all of the things that we could do. We put, a lot of time and effort into, preparing for that moment. And I think the preparation that we had and that we did allowed us to get on stage with the confidence that we did. So I wasn't as nervous doing that, even though it was such a big deal.
Yeah.
Even though I was just, moments away from, meeting this person who has been, this figure in my life. So I think it really taught me about how to prepare for the big moments and to over prepare. Never take, oh yeah, I got this. Over prepare for anything that could happen, because even when we got called up to perform, there was a technical difficulty. They said, no, somebody else has to go on and perform before you, and this and that. So, we were in the zone, and then we had to come out of the zone and get back in the zone. But I think because we were so prepared for the moment, it was easy to just kind of step into it and execute.
Wow. Yes, you did an excellent job. I witnessed it personally, and you did an excellent job. Now, you said we. Who the team of persons that work with you. You are an author of several books, and again, you continuously write. Now, you described a we. Who is the team that is behind Mr. Dwayne Morgan?
There's no team. However, with the Obama performance, I worked with two younger artists. One that I mentor more closely, and the other that I mentor just kind of loosely when I see him. If he asks questions, I'll, point him in the right direction and that sort of thing. And I wanted to make sure that I shared that moment with younger artists, because a lot of times as artists and even as people, we're just so selfish. An opportunity comes and we just have to be the center of it. We have to be, it has to be all about us. But I think there's power in reaching back to those who are coming after you and say, I want you to do this with me. And the piece that we wrote together we looked at, historically how you would have went from Martin Luther King Jr. to Barack Obama to this next generation. And we wanted to make the stage look like that as well, where you have me, and then you have another generation, then you have another generation, so that you see that there's a continuation that has to happen. We often get so sidetracked that we spend all this time reinventing the wheel every generation. And if we just learn that the wheels exist, why don't we build an engine?
That's right.
Further. So for me, bringing those young people on stage with me and having them there and going and writing this poem with them, rehearsing the poem with them, was for me building the engine. The wheel is already there. So now we have to figure out where can we take it collectively, and how can I pass on what I know to those who are coming up after me.
Paying it forward.
Absolutely.
Wow. Wow. You're just an amazing person with the skill sets of writing and speaking it, because you've just expressed it. You're reaching out to younger persons, and the connection is being made, and you guys delivered an excellent performance, because as I said, I saw it personally. So again, you represented well.
Thank you very much.
I understand that you are well traveled as well.
Yes.
And I know you had engagements in Africa. And compared to where you started in Toronto or Scarborough, and then you ended up in Africa doing the same thing, can you express the different dynamics, or is there any, in terms of how the further away you go from home, is the expression or the acceptance of spoken word the same?
Well, right now, spoken word is very huge all around the world, and it kind of looks different in different places. And I always tell the story of, the first time I traveled overseas, I went to Germany, and that was probably the worst performance experience I ever had. And what I realized, it wasn't that I didn't perform well, but at that time, most of my poems were so Scarborough and Toronto big that when I went there, nobody knew what I was talking about. Nobody could relate to me. And what I learned from bombing is that my work had to be more global if I wanted to move outside of Toronto, if I wanted to move outside of Scarborough. So the work that I create now has a much more far-reaching, topics and ideas, so that no matter where I go in the world, I'm able to get up on stage and people can identify with what I'm speaking about. So, me doing horribly in Germany was one of the best things that could have happened to me.
Yes.
Because, I'm very self-critical. So I always analyze and try to figure out what went wrong, what could I have done better. And when I realized that, it changed everything that I've written since that moment. And now, I've performed in 18 countries around the world. And, it's always a success. Even when I've gone back to Germany, it's been awesome.
Wow. Well, we learn from our failures. They're at the beginning, or stepping stones to go forward, right? So that's an awesome thing. So without further ado, may we have one of your poems, because we have a global audience.
All right. So this poem was inspired by my daughter, and just when she was younger and we had to do bedtime stories, just the messaging in some of the stories that she would bring to me to read, I didn't necessarily agree with. And in life, you can choose to complain, or you can choose to do something about it. So I chose to write a poem, and I turned this into a children's book, and this is called Fairy Tales.
Okay.
I look forward to bedtime. I let her choose whatever story she wants to read, and then I wait to see what adventures we find. Time after time, I've come to realize that there are dangers that lurk on bookshelves. Words and sentences used to affirm the imaginations of boys while leaving girls to wonder if they're good enough to find their prince. And to think that we socialize girls to find their prince charming while never teaching boys how to be charming.
Wow.
That is alarming. So allow me to tell you some things that these books refuse to in this life. You had better learn how to take care of yourself. There is no man coming to save you, but one who will always have your back. As a matter of fact, the man that you choose to love might end up being the one that you need to be protected from. As a matter of fact, your knight in shining armor might come riding in a plaid shirt, stilettos, or both. Who knows? Keep your options open. As a matter of fact, you might even end up alone, and that is also okay, because there's no reason to believe that you don't already have everything that you need and that some man is going to come and magically make you complete when you are far from a damsel in distress. Look at this world that we live in. If there's anyone that needs saving, it's probably men. So don't just spend your days only fantasizing about a wedding when there's so much adventure to be had. You can be an astronaut and fly to the moon. You can be an animator who invents cartoons. You can be a chemist or a mechanical engineer. You can be a makeup artist, help people style their hair. You can be anything that you want under the sun. But always remember that if a frog comes up to you and asks for a kiss, the first thing you should do is run, because playing princesses is cool, but there's no reason to believe that your self-worth should be tied to the views of one who sees you as more destined for the sidelines and being in the game. I don't work this hard for you to not slay. So for every young girl who dreams big dreams, who wants to do things this world has never seen, you go, girl. Show off your magic. Be awesome. Make it a habit. Don't sit and be silent. Raise your voice and make noise. Embrace your imagination and leave the fairy tales to the boys.
Ah, is that what we do? That's that? I can hear it on. Oh my goodness. Where was that when I was a child asking my mother to read bedtime story to me? Okay, so there is a follow-up. This is a book, you said? You have a book, a story, a bedtime story book for children?
I do.
And the name of the book?
It's called Fairy Tales.
And they can purchase this book on?
They can go on my website. Don't be like, there's a store part there, but the store doesn't actually work. You have to actually go to the events section, and it's set up as an event. And when you go there, you'll see the books and stuff there. So yeah, you can get it there. I have another children's book called Before I Was Born. So I have 2 children's books, and then I have a couple of poetry books that are out at the moment as well. And then I just, last week, Monday, my 9th album came out, and that is out right now on Spotify, Apple, whatever people listen to music on.
So you don't just do spoken word, you say album. Is this a musical album, or is it, tell us about the album?
So this album is called Timed Out, and it's my love album, and it's the poetry put to music. So I have a band, I have background singers, and I say the poetry, they sing in the background, the band plays the music. So for people who, love nice soul R&B music, live musicianship, definitely check it out.
Do you play any instrument?
I wish I did, but I totally did.
So who did the arrangements with the music and the?
I have musicians that I hire for my shows that do all of that stuff for me. We kind of just get together and I say, hey, this is the mood that I'm looking for, and they just create it and we make it happen.
I wonder if we can get another piece out of you, because I'm seeing all the comments here, and yeah. Is it possible? Sure. Is this from the second book? From the second storybook?
This is going to be from a book called No Apologies, which is a book I wrote. All of the poems in that one are pretty much based on race. So I'm going to do a poem from that book, and this is called Black Boys. It was 4 a.m. when she woke me, and I can still remember the cold sweat on the back of my neck like it was yesterday. 13 years have now passed, and I can still remember the pregnancy test in my hand and how it felt like my heart and my world had stopped simultaneously. And nobody knows this. But at every doctor's visit, as he would perform routine ultrasounds, I would look from the ground to the screen, hoping, praying to God that none of the squiggly lines that I was seeing would confirm this little being as a boy. And I don't feel good about it. But I've lived a long time in skin despised simply for its hue, so every November I go poppyless. Not out of disrespect, I'm just not a fan of Remembrance Day, remembering that there has never been a plane sent to save us. We are the displaced. Our bodies and religion stolen. We were given a new prophet as they used us to make profits. Ask Nike what a black man is worth. for hundreds of years. We have been killed as a form of amusement, gunned down with no fear of repercussions, so don't blame me for not wanting to be burdened by the birth of a Black boy born into a world built on his back, forcing me to teach him how to write and his rights, knowing that even my greatest efforts can't keep him alive. So yes, I stood there staring blankly at a screen, hoping, praying to God that none of the squiggly lines that I was seeing would confirm this little being as a boy. Maybe having a girl would increase my chances of not having a child who'd grow up to be a hashtag trending, because the killing of Black men has been a trend since forever. Black Lives Matter, not to try to inform others, but to try to convince ourselves in a world that is constantly showing us otherwise. And my heart can't help but break for those parents who have had their children snatched from their lives. It was an April afternoon when I found myself pacing around a delivery room, wondering if my prayers would be answered at 3:20. The most precious little girl was presented to me, and I cried uncontrollably for hours, knowing that I had just been blessed, not because having a girl will make her worth more, but because we live in a world where Black boys will always be worth less. Thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. I heard you perform the piece you just said. I heard you, and it is just as refreshing then as it is now. You are so rounded. And do you have an interest? Because you're obviously very artsy. So do you also stand behind a lens as well, as much as a pen and paper?
I definitely do photography, and not as much as I do, the poetry. It's my other thing to do, and it keeps me creative, keeps me active. It's another way of storytelling, sometimes depending on what I'm taking pictures of. And so I just really just try to stay as creative as possible and find different things to create.
So photography is somewhat of a balance then.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you like to capture? Is it people? Is it nature? Is it a combination?
It's really a combination. It's kind of wherever I am. If people are around, if I'm traveling, when I went to South Africa, there was just so much stuff to take pictures of. So it's really, I like, people, but really, wherever I am, I just try to figure out what is beautiful in this scene.
Wow. When you get up in the morning, what's the first thing that you do to center yourself? Or at what point of the day do you center yourself?
I think the centering kind of comes in the night, really, because, in the night, I plan out the next day. So usually when I get up, I just get up and execute. I don't have a morning ritual other than knowing that, okay, at this time, this is how my day starts. And so I usually have my alarm set for, it's like, never be asleep past this time. So it's just in case my body says it needs more rest at this time, I'm getting up no matter what. And then I know exactly what time I'm going to start working. And usually, every day I have about a 12-hour day. And religiously the night before, I plan out what every hour is going to look like. So there's people who, call me on the phone, and if that call wasn't in the schedule, it goes straight to voicemail. Like it's very hard to get off of the schedule. If I have an hour to respond to email, unless something is pressing, there's no response until tomorrow's email time. So, I'm just very disciplined and diligent about how I spend my time. And the reason why I've attained the success that I have is because of my orientation to time and the respect that I have for time, and the fact that I don't let people, waste my time. If I say I'm going to be here at a certain time, I'm there at a certain time. I'm going to honor your time. I expect you to honor my time, because we can't get it back. And because I know that, 10 to 10 every day, I'm just going to be working every hour. Anything that happens after 10, before 10, that's just free time or whatever. But 10 to 10 every day, I got work to do, and every hour is accounted for. And I just stick to that. So I think, the last thing I do, before winding down for the night is I just plan out the next day. So it's like, when I wake up, I already know what I have to do. There's nothing to be figured out. It's already been figured out. I'm good to go. Execute.
Wow. Now you have me speechless. That is amazing strategy.
Well, thank
Now,
you.
a father is most important to his daughter. You're so structured. Tell me how you incorporate that personal time of affirmation to your daughter.
Well, I mean, all of those things get factored into the schedule. So
Mm.
daughter time is there. So
Mhm.
and we also have, every Friday, pretty much her entire life has been daddy-daughter date night. We have a date every Friday. She gets to choose whatever she wants to eat. I go, I buy it. We sit together, we eat together, we watch Dance Moms or some TV show or whatever the case may be. So unless I'm performing somewhere, every Friday we know that's a standing date, that we have. Now that she's starting to get older and she wants to hang out with friends and stuff, there's stuff that's coming in the way of that. But I understand that part of my work is being able to let go of that and
Yes.
being able to allow her that, that freedom, with the hope that, she remembers that and later on, we get back to, just having a great rapport. But, having fun and just spending time with her is factored into the time. So it's not like I have to make time for it. It's in the schedule.
And the schedule.
We are doing this, and there's nothing that's going to come and disrupt this because this is what the schedule is for this time. So, sometimes even now that she has a phone and stuff, now she's forever on her phone, Snapchatting going off and stuff. And I have to say, hey, we're going to have to put that on Do Not Disturb for just 2 hours. And we're going to spend this time together. Then after that, go do whatever you want to go and do. But also trying to teach her that same kind of discipline as well in terms of this time is for this. So then focus on this. So we'll see how much it catches on with her.
I think you planted the seed and nurtured it very well. I think you have. Normally, I will ask my guests, tell us what would you tell your younger self, but I will switch it up for you today. You have impacted so many young persons. You have impacted them. I mean, like not just young, but just persons on the whole. What would you share with them? You talk about your structure, your strategy. What would you share with those younger persons that you have impacted? What would you share with them at this particular point?
I think the most important thing to share is that you matter. And I spent a lot of time as an introvert convincing myself that I didn't matter, convincing myself that what I thought, what I would have said didn't matter. So then I justified being an introvert by just saying, well, no one would care anyways. And then when I started to speak, I realized that people were listening and I realized that it mattered. And, it was unfortunate that I wasted so much time feeling like I didn't matter. So I think the sooner we realize that we matter, our life matters, our voice matters, our experience matters, it's the sooner that we can get on the road to wherever it is that we're supposed to go in this life. Because you're not really going to achieve the things that you want to achieve until you believe that you matter, until you believe that you deserve them. So, by playing small, you do no service to yourself. You do no service to anyone around you. You have to be willing to take up space that is destined to be your space. You have to believe that you belong in the room. You have to believe that you belong in whatever place you are, and then act accordingly while you're there.
That's right.
So I think the most important thing really is just understanding how much you matter. And and you matter even when no one is looking. You matter when you're the only one in the room, because I always often say to people that we complain about the things that people say to us, but if we're truly being honest, very few people will say things to you that are worse than the things that you say to yourself.
Wow.
So you have to matter when no one else is there. You have to matter when the only conversation that you are having is with yourself.
That's right.
That is the most important conversation that is ever going to happen, the most important kind of mattering that needs to happen. And what we often have is a lot of people who want to matter, but then they try to find, you know, a lover, boyfriend, girlfriend to make them matter.
Oh, man.
If you don't matter to you, you'll never fully matter.
That's right.
So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy or a vicious cycle, whichever way you want to look at it, because until you matter, until you love yourself, there's nobody else who's coming to save you.
That's right.
Is your work. You're the only one who can do it. But doing it is what sets you on the path to achieve the things that you want.
Wow. Again, this is how they do when you say the word right. Okay. Oh, that's amazing. As a man, I firmly believe this, and you've heard we share this, and I'll say it again. The Now Talk Show is a platform for men to express themselves, because when men speak, it shapes the world. This is the platform. I'm handing you the microphone for you to speak to men. Would you please express to men, just like you're obviously you're a wise man. So I ask you, leave a word with the men and also to the ladies, because when you speak, we listen. And of course, it allows us to understand how better to listen to you and how to love you and how to understand you. And understanding is important because human connection is the most important thing that we can offer each other. So at this moment, I ask you, please take this time to speak to men. And of course, you can also include the beautiful ladies that are engaged as well.
Absolutely. You know, I go to detention centers, jails, prisons. I talk to men behind bars. I talk to men all over the place. And, you know, one of the things that I always, you know, say to men is that, you know, where you are in life isn't necessarily who you are in this life. Wherever you find yourself, if you're not content with who you are and where you are, the beauty of life as human beings is that we have the ability to change. And we have the ability to change as humans in ways that other animals don't. And I always give the example, and I say that, you know, there are birds that have to fly south in the winter, and you're never going to see the birds come together and say, yeah, you know what, that's far, I'm not going to go this year. They don't have a choice.
Right.
As men, as human beings, we always have a choice. And the things we have done, the mistakes that we have made, we almost always have the opportunity to atone for them and to move in a different direction with new information.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of times, you know, I talk to men who they just want to have, you know, all these kids and stuff. And they say, well, you know, this is my legacy. I have to pass on my name. But I say to them, well, what does your name mean? What have you achieved with that name? Because who cares if you're passing on a name that has achieved nothing? Wouldn't you rather pass on the achievement, pass on the discipline, pass on the work ethic than just pass on a last name? Because passing on a last name is easy. It takes no work. It's basics. But what else should we be striving to pass on to the next generation, to our seed, to our kin, to our family? So my word is really to take responsibility for our thoughts, our actions, take responsibility for your life, where it is right now, you know, atone for whatever mistakes that you've made, and understand that the beauty of life is that every day is a blank canvas and you get to decide what the masterpiece of your life looks like.
Wow. Yeah. I feel a hug. I feel a hug. And what would you tell the beautiful ladies who are engaged? Your voice is so important because you're shaping hearts and shaping minds. I see it in the chat room and I can feel it. So to the ladies, what would you express to them at this moment?
You know, the ladies, really important that you honor yourself, honor your goals, your dreams, your desires. I meet too many awesome women who are out in the world trying to save men who are lost. You are not a rescue ranger. If these men are lost, you can tell them where the path is, but don't be out there thinking that you're going to be the savior of all of these lost people. You're just wasting time, and nobody put you on the planet to be trying to save people who don't want to be saved. You got to save yourself. You have to make sure that you are focused on who you want to be, what you are going to do, because before you know it, 5-10 years have gone by and you're in the same place and you're wondering, how did I get here? And you blame him, but you chose to try to save him. You chose to allow him to waste your time. So you have to be focused on you, your goals, your dreams, what you want to do. And if you encounter a man that does not want to be saved, don't become the savior of a man that does not want to be saved. Keep it moving, keep focusing on you. And the man that sees that and honors that will manifest and will show up.
Wow. Again, your words come across as a warm hug. And on behalf of the ladies and the men, I want to say thank you so very much. On behalf of the team of the Now Talk Show, I would like to say thank you so very much for giving us your time. I always say this, your time is the most important thing that you can give to anyone. And I'm so glad that we were like-minded when you expressed that point of view as well. The Now Talk Show is sponsored by the Alabaster Wellness Clinic, where we specialize in clinical counseling, integrative medicine, and trichology. Should you know of another distinguished gentleman, we ask if you please email us at thenowtalkshow.drnwong, at gmail.com, or look at the bottom of the screen. I'm sure it's dangling at the bottom. We'll be more than happy to confirm a schedule for another distinguished gentleman. When a man speaks, he shapes the world. And you heard it today. You know, Mr. Morgan, I think it's time we call you Sir Dwayne Morgan. Without further, I mean, listen, listen, that's what we're going to call you. We're going to end the show on that. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you so very much for giving us your time on the Now Talk Show with Sir Dwayne Morgan. This was an absolutely warm experience, a refreshing experience, like all the distinguished gentlemen before. And I am just so thank you for lending us your time today. And to all our audience, all our guests, again, thank you for giving us your time to participate in this warm experience on the Now Talk Show. I thank you and have yourself a wonderful evening.